Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're doing something a little different. We're not just, reading a white paper. It feels more like we're trying to translate an ancient prophecy into verifiable on-chain mechanics. We're diving into Toby, the cute blue frog of base, and this really unique economic experiment they're running called Toby World.
It's fascinating. The source material is dense.
It is. It's this blend of, esoteric lore about a toad gang and ascension mixed with some seriously sophisticated tokenomics. So our mission today is to kind of filter out the poetry and just deliver the actionable knowledge.
And it all centers around this one token, patience.
Right. And the project is built on this single, pretty radical premise.
Sure.
It rejects the speed, the greed of a typical crypto cycle.
Yeah.
It's all about extreme, sustained commitment.
And that's the core tension, right? That's what we need to analyze. The entire system is explicitly designed to reward only the ultra-loyal. They actually say, stillness proved motion in disguise.
I love that line.
It's great, but we're looking at a system where the time you don't act is more valuable than the time you do. Our job is to see how that philosophy actually translates into smart contracts. Because this isn't just a suggestion, it's enforced by some pretty brutal forfeiture rules.
Okay, so let's start at the source of it all. The entire ethos seems to come from this one moment. The Toby frog, it says, was floating an unblinking moon on water, and it delivered these 9 syllables.
We move not by leaps. We move by stillness.
Exactly. That's the foundation for everything. But, you need a history lesson just to even get in the door. So this project's origin story, it's not one of hype. It sounds more like a cleansing. The historical context is this night after the bloom, which is a pretty clear reference to a market crash.
It is, yeah.
Tell us about that. What created this toad gang?
Absolutely. So the sources describe it very vividly. Thousands of frogs fell quiet, meaning they sold, they just bailed, they pawned their hope for, and this is a quote, 2-cent gratification. Yeah. The pond turned into a cemetery. And the project, this is the key, deliberately took its snapshot after that massive sell-off. This was never about rewarding the first investors. It was about identifying who was left, filtering out the weak hands, the short-term flippers.
So the toad gang is literally just
Yeah.
the survivors, the people who didn't leave when it looked hopeless.
That's it. And longevity is their proof of work, really. This isn't some new launch. It's a survivor.
Right. It's been around for, what was it?
Over 480 suns. So 480 days of continuous operation. And think about the market cycles packed into that time. The FUD, the FOMO, the COPE periods of euphoria, it's all in there.
So the whole economic structure is really built on the fact that those 480-plus days were just one massive continuous filter.
Precisely. The system is designed to punish the frogs who flip for crumbs, who, as the lore says, will end up with COPE.
So surviving the last bear market is literally the price of admission for the rewards we're about to get into.
Yeah.
But it's not just history. They frame the future as a prophecy.
Mm-hmm.
This whole idea of the hidden geometry of runes. How do these 4 glyphs define the project's roadmap?
Well, they're the milestones. They're the pillars leading to the stated goal, which is Toby World ascending from a small project to a continent, a major ecosystem.
Okay, so what are they?
Rune 1 burned over 1 year ago. That was the foundation. Rune 2 is when Tabasha was sprouted.
And that's a key moment, right? Because it introduced a whole other asset.
A critical moment. It introduced the secondary asset that acts as a yield multiplier. It basically confirmed this was always going to be a multi-asset strategy.
And now we're on Rune 3, which uncurled this dawn.
Exactly. But the whole ecosystem is pointing towards the activation of Rune 4. And the sources are really specific here. The final rune is going to be a weighted one.
What does that mean, weighted?
That's the key technical detail. It suggests activation won't be some simple community vote or a time lock. It implies a mechanism that's weighted by, say, accumulated time or the total amount of patience or Toby staked. It ensures the final ascension is proportional to the loyalty that's already been shown. It's the stillness philosophy written in code.
Okay, so the ultimate reward for that stillness is the token, patience, described as rare grains. Let's shift from the philosophy of it all to the hard mechanics. How scarce is this thing, and what does the allocation tell us?
The scarcity is. It's absolute. It's designed to be iconic. Total supply is exactly 7,777,777.
Wow. Okay, that 777 count is not an accident.
No, not at all. It's intentional scarcity. And when you look at the distribution, you see right away that it's hyper-community focused.
So give us the numbers on that.
55%, over half. It's dedicated to the community, the Toad Gang survivors. That's split into 30% for Season 0 survivors and then 25% for future loyalty seasons.
The rest.
33% goes into the DAO vault. And this isn't just some generic treasury. It's specifically earmarked for ecosystem growth. So funding guardians, artists, audits, providing LP rewards later on.
The one that really stands out to me is the Toad God Reserve. 7%, sealed for 7 years. That's a long time in crypto. Is that a risk?
Well, it cuts both ways. But here, that long lockup is really designed to signal commitment and mitigate immediate risk. Sealing it for 7 years is basically a statement. We are not going to sell or dump.
So it takes developers selling pressure off the table for almost a decade.
It verifiably removes that risk. Only 5% is left for immediate liquidity and CEX listings. The main takeaway is that the system really has, and they say this, no VC talons, no whale harpoons, and no pre-sale. You cannot buy patience. You have to earn it.
So if you made it through the 480-plus suns, you were deemed worthy, and you got a vault in this ceremony of the Jade Chest. This is the tangible reward. What are the specifics?
This is where it gets quantified. We're talking about 1,800 loyal frogs who were granted these vaults. And they collectively represent an allocation of 2.32 million patients.
And the claiming window for that opens when?
July 17th, 2025. And it only lasts for 3 days. Anything unclaimed goes to a multi-sig guard vault. But here's the thing. Even after surviving 480 days, the test isn't over. This is where we have to talk about the 730 dawn drip.
The 2-year vesting schedule. Wait a second. 730 days of a slow release.
Yeah.
I mean, doesn't that just create a 2-year period of guaranteed selling pressure? Kind of defeats the whole patience thing.
You'd think so, right? And that's the central critique you'd normally have. It would be a major risk if it were just a simple linear vest from day one. But the mechanism is smarter than that.
How so?
It's designed to delay and stagger the pressure. So the distribution starts at 0%, but crucially, there is a 49-day slumber, a 7-week cliff where nothing is liquid at all.
So you have to hold your assets completely dormant for 7 weeks after the claim period before you see a single token.
Not a single grain. Only after that cliff does the vault even begin to liquefy, trickling out over those 730 dawns. That's 2 full years before the final grain surfaces. It's an extreme behavioral constraint. It forces you to align your own timeline with the project's.
That is a brutal commitment. And there's an even more severe part, right? The forfeiture rule. This makes it feel less like a financial instrument and more like a spiritual test.
It really does. The warning is stark. Any qualifying frog who abandons their Toki World assets to game the system, they forfeit their entire vault. The whole thing.
Wow. How do they track that?
Well, the statute on your Toby or your Tabashi NFT, but the intent is crystal clear. If you try to exploit the vesting by moving the assets that qualified you in the first place, the reward is just revoked. It enforces total fidelity for the entire 2-year drip.
Okay, with that level of control, the token has to have some serious utility. Let's shift from earning it to using it in the still water garden where, as the lore puts it, silence is thicker than FOMO.
Yeah, the garden is the main staking and yield hub. And the first big utility loop connects the foundation token, Toby, with the loyalty token, Patience. They call it impatience rewarding patience.
How does that work? How does the impatience of flippers turn into yield?
It's pretty brilliant, actually. On every single buy or sell transaction of Toby, every hop, a mandatory 1% fee is taken.
Yeah, okay.
That fee is spilled directly back into their sacred pond, and then it's redistributed to everyone holding and staking patience.
So every time a short-term trader acts on impulse, they're literally paying a tax directly to the long-term holders.
Exactly. The faithful who linger, sip that flow, and grow fat on their patience. Owning patience gives you a direct claim on the trading volume of the foundational asset.
That makes sense for passive yield. But now let's get into the weeds with the other assets, the spores and leads. What are these things?
Right. So to unlock infinite summers, you have to tend the garden. When you stake or drop a grain of patience into the garden, you receive lotus spores.
And the spores are what? A new token?
They're the immediate yield. Think of them as a claim on future utility. The spores are promised to become sacred and scarce golden coins once Rune3 awakens.
And where does the other asset, Tabashi, fit into this?
Tabashi is the multiplier. It's sprouted back in Rune2, remember? It's an NFT. And when you bind your Tabashi leaves, the NFTs to your plot in the garden, the amount of spores you generate can double, triple, or even more.
Okay, so it's an interconnected yield machine. Toby Trading generates fees.
Patience captures those fees and generates its own yield in spores.
And Tabashi multiplies that yield. That's a powerful feedback loop. But the ultimate utility seems to be something else entirely.
Correct. The ultimate utility, the thing that's supposed to create the final supply shock, is tied to loreland
And you
deeds.
can only get those with patience.
It's the only way.
Yeah.
These deeds will be minted soon, apparently, and they let you claim digital soil where shrines and oracle statues will eventually be built. It ties long-term holding directly to governance and ownership of the future Toby World continent.
So this has been a really comprehensive look at a very complex system. It seems pretty clear the entire thing hinges on the interlocking utility of these three assets.
Yeah.
Patience, Toby, and Taboshi, and, just pure devotion.
The architects built an incredibly elaborate machine designed to find, filter, and then reward true believers. They know that when the sidelines arrive, the market will just call the loyal ones lucky.
Right, they just got in early.
Exactly. And the sources predict the Bushido frogs will respond. We simply listen to Stillwater. A whole model tries to shift the idea of wealth transfer from just wallet to wallet based on capital to mind based on conviction.
A conviction that's enforced by code. So given the extremity of all this, the 730-day drip, the 7-year Toad God lock, that forfeiture rule, what is the most radical action someone could take today to really embody this stillness that's promised to unlock it all?
I think the most radical action is realizing that for this ecosystem, any movement is more costly than inaction. Given those strict forfeiture rules, the ultimate embodiment of stillness isn't just staking your patience, it's eliminating the digital impulse to even touch the underlying Toby and Kibo Kashai that got you there in the first place for the next 2 years. The lore will always prevail, but only if you stop your own hand from breaking the contract.